It's Tuesday, October 31st, and it's time for your Barbados Today morning news update. Thanks for joining us. I'm Ryan Jilts. Chairman of the National Insurance Scheme, Dr. Justin Robinson, is dismissing any suggestion of political interference when it comes to the investment of the National Insurance Fund, and he has given the assurance that any problem facing the fund is being addressed. Robinson says while he agrees in theory that at least 20% of the fund's investment should be overseas, it was not practical given the island's failing international reserves.
The NIS portfolio right now is a little over 5 billion Barbados dollars. So 20% of the fund, which is recommended overseas, would be a little over $1 billion. Now the NIS collects contributions in Barbados dollars, so to invest funds overseas, we need to acquire foreign exchange. In the history of Barbados, the foreign exchange reserves have never been higher than 1.48 billion, which they hit in 2009. So it is actually a practical challenge as to how would you get $1 billion of foreign exchange, permission to take $1 billion of the foreign exchange out for investing in for NIS investing, when the highest level has been 1.4. I think it's well known in Barbados that the reserves are one of the challenges that the country is facing. So there is a practical problem with achieving that objective.
His comments came during the official opening of the old male barracks and gym at the Central Police Station yesterday evening. The refurbishment of the facility was an investment by the NIS to the tune of $2.2 million, which Robinson says was out of its surplus funds.
There is much public commentary about the NIS, and a lot of it negative. It gives me great pleasure to make remarks on the NIS at such a worthwhile event where the NIS has been able to use part of its surplus funds to provide our much underappreciated and hardworking officers with adequate accommodation. At one of these moments when we suddenly remember we have police officers, when we are suddenly concerned about our personal security as the Caribbean, it seems, is experiencing an unprecedented crime wave. I mean, Barbados is at the highest level of murders in any year. I'm from St. Vincent originally, and we've had 31 murders in St. Vincent for the year. St. Lucia has had 40, and Trinidad has crossed 400. So the NIS is very pleased to be able to participate in providing our officers with adequate accommodation as they help keep us secure.
Don't be fooled by any election promises being touted by the opposition Barbados Labour Party. Education Minister Ronald Jones issued this caution to Democratic Labour Party supporters at a meeting of the Christchurch constituencies held at the Dighton Griffith Secondary School on Sunday. Jones specifically poured cold water on the BLP's promise that it would repeal the controversial National Social Responsibility Levy and restore free education for citizens attending the University of the West Indies. He charged the promises were nothing more than a desperate attempt by the BLP to win the general elections constitutionally due by the middle of next year.
A promise is a promise to a fool. And I listen, they're going to give you basket after basket after basket of promises. They're not going to relate to any realities in Barbados. They're going to give you the H, the L, and the 11 stars. They have already started to do it. And you're doing that because you're not sure how the people are going to respond to you. So you've got to promise them by fooling them that you're going to be able to give them everything. And we cannot allow anybody soft dumplings to carry away. You hear what I just said? I like local sayings. We, as the good people of Barbados, would not allow the Barbados Labour Party soft dumplings to carry our rights. So we can be telling them that. Now, only Barbadians are in a position to keep Barbados afloat, as we have been doing over the last 10 years, yes, with some difficulty. But no Barbadian goes hungry unless they want to go hungry.
Meantime, the opposition Barbados Labour Party is sounding a warning that changes will be coming to the Caribbean Broadcasting Corporation once the party obtains the reins of power. BLP General Secretary Dr. Jerome Walcott says this was a necessary move because the state-owned radio, television and cable company has refused to give his party airtime despite payments. He made the charge over the weekend as the curtain came down on the Barbados Labour Party's 79th annual conference in Queen's Park.
some of the senior management of the CBC see the operating of CBC as the public relations arms of the Democratic Labour Party government, as their role and function. These same individuals, some members of the senior management, cannot deny their connections to the Democratic Labour Party. One was a candidate, one has chaired a public meeting for the DLP, and one, as I said earlier, holds his friendship from school days with the late Prime Minister David Thompson. Of course, to cap it off, Mr. George Pilgrim, the General Secretary of the Democratic Labour Party, sits on the board of CBC, I believe, as the Deputy Chairman. It is therefore no surprise how CBC is being crudely manipulated for political purposes. However, comrades, the longest day must come to an end, and eventually the people of Barbados will determine the fate and future of the CBC.
Legalizing marijuana is high on the agenda for the United Progressive Party. The 8-month-old political grouping is promising to permit the legal use of a few grams of the drug for personal use if it wins the next general election. The announcement was made by the party's candidate for St. John, Hudson Griffith, who cited the United States, where the majority of states have started the process of decriminalizing the use of marijuana. He also highlighted Jamaica, that is in the process of developing a medical marijuana industry.
Personal use means that you will not be trading, you will not be growing, but if we can have packs of Benson and Hedges and packs of embassies and cigars, all done from tobacco, what is wrong with us starting the process of saying a plant that's grown, but because the USA and other big companies say it is illegal, we are going to wait for them to make all the money in the world and then come and say you all legalize it from a medical marijuana point of view. We are saying let us move the other way. Let us work the social side. And as a result, we are prepared to, on the discussion, but we are prepared to take the bull by the horn, change up legislation that would accommodate the decriminalization of personal use of marijuana.
Griffith, who had previously contested the 2008 by-election and the 2013 general election on a BLP ticket and lost before he was replaced as its candidate for the upcoming poll, was speaking on a UPP platform at Edgecliff on Sunday night.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Join us from November 16th to 19th, 2017 for the Barbados Food and Rum Festival, where acclaimed Barbadian chefs and mixologists are joined by Chef Jean-Georges of the US, Chef Tom Akins of the UK, Chef Chris De La Rosa of Canada to create dining experiences to delight the senses. Visit ticketpal.com and all TicketPal locations to get your tickets, and visit foodandrum.com for more information.
In regional news now, we turn to Jamaica, where the Director of Elections, Orette Fisher, has filed an application in the Supreme Court seeking an injunction to prevent his removal from office. His attorney, Hugh Waldman, says Fisher's application was filed on the basis that the Electoral Commission's Interim Act says the director shall be appointed for a period of 7 years. Waldman explains Mr. Fisher had been appointed as stipulated for 7 years, but after that period expired, he was appointed for 2 one-year periods. His current 1-year appointment expires today. And in international news, the Speaker of the British House of Commons, John Bercow, is adopting a zero-tolerance attitude towards sexual harassment or bullying in Parliament. This amidst allegations of a growing culture of harassment between MPs and their staff. In a statement to the MPs, Bercow supported Prime Minister Theresa May's call for a Commons-wide mediation scheme, and he stressed that political parties must live up to their responsibilities. Mr. Bercow's statement follows mounting reports of abusive and inappropriate behavior towards women at Westminster, and also follows claims that the International Trade Minister Mark Garnier asked his secretary to buy sex toys and called her sugar tits.
Let me make it clear. There must be zero tolerance of sexual harassment or bullying here at Westminster or elsewhere.
Serious enough that the Prime Minister sat in, as MPs agreed complaints should be dealt with by a new independent process, and not them.
I'm well aware that the public rightly expect MPs to display the highest standards. And as the Prime Minister outlined in her letter yesterday, there can be no place for harassment, abuse or misconduct.
The longest-serving female MP agreed that is not what her colleagues are here for.
No one voted for me to come to this House to engage in high jinks. No one elected any of us to engage in sleazy, oppressive behaviour.
And that's news, but for the very latest, visit our website at www.barbadostoday.bb. Also subscribe to our e-paper email updates and like us on Facebook. We're also on Izumi Media in bus terminals and on Screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. We're also on Mix 96.9 FM. I'm Ryan Gilt. Good morning.